Hello OpenMaze experimenters, my name is Kyle Alsbury-Neely, and in this tutorial I'm going to go over some of the basic 3D trial parameters. I'll show you how to use different environments on a trial-by-trial basis, display text during a 3D trial, and define a starting position for your participant. As always, we'll start by opening our OpenMaze project in Unity. For this tutorial video, we'll be using the configuration file called 3D Trials Basics, which you can find in the configuration files under Tutorials and Step 3 Experiment Configuration. And for this tutorial, we're going to add both of the tutorial environments. We're going to do that by going to the project window, navigating to the folder Tutorial Environments, first opening 3D Environment 1, then going up to File, Build Settings, adding the open scene. Then we can open our 3D Environment 2 scene, and we can add that scene to our build as well. Okay, so let's check out what this experiment does. We see that it's a pretty simple experiment. We have block order of 1. We have one block. It's going to call trial 1 and then trial 2. We see trial 1 is just our standard welcome page, and trial 2 is our 3D trial. And so let's just go ahead and launch this experiment by navigating to the scenes folder, launch experiment, and clicking the play button. We'll navigate to the correct configuration file and open it up. Then go to the game window, click anywhere, and press the spacebar. Spacebar again, and we see that we are now placed into one of our environments. Okay, great. So let's stop our experiment and let's take a look at our 3D trial. So we see that we were placed into 3D Environment 1 environment, and that's because we're calling Scene 4. And you might recall from the Building Environments tutorial that the scene number corresponds to the build number. We can go back to our build settings, and we see that our 3D Environment 1 has the scene ID number of 4. Now if we wanted to call 3D Environment 2, all we'd have to do is simply change scene 4 in our trial to scene 5. So let's go ahead and do that now. Change scene 4 to scene 5. I'm going to save that. Go back to scenes, launch experiment. Let's play this experiment again by opening the configuration file. And now we see that we are placed into 3D Environment 2. So as you can see, it's really easy to use multiple scenes in your experiment on a trial-by-trial basis simply by changing the scene number in the 3D trial. Okay, great. Let's say we want to add some instructions or some text for our participant during the trial. You can do that by using the header parameter. As we can see right now, there's nothing in the header parameter. Let's just go ahead and type something in. Then we can save our experiment or save the configuration file, go back to the Unity editor, open our configuration file again. And this time, when we're placed into the environment, we see that we have the text that we entered in this case, hello world, displayed for the participant to see. And this can be useful if you want to display some instructions or a cue to your participant. The next parameter is trial time. This is pretty intuitive. It's just the time in seconds that the trial is going to last before continuing on to the next trial. We see that the next two parameters are start position and start facing, and these parameters allow you to place your participant in different areas of the environment. Now the easiest way to figure out a start point is actually by running the experiment, going to that start point, and then recording the position in your configuration file. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. We'll go back to the Unity editor, hit play, load our experiment. Okay, so once you're in the environment, you can just navigate to wherever you want the participant to start. And once you're happy with the start position, you can just go up and pause the experiment. Then you're going to go to the hierarchy window and use the arrow to drop down the 3D environment. Then select the participant object. Now, the start position in the configuration file corresponds to the X position parameter and the Z position parameter. So in this case, if we want our participant to start where we are right now, we simply have to change our start position from 0 to 0. Let's round it to 3, and from 0 to 68. And the start facing corresponds to the rotation Y parameter. So if we want our participant to be facing the way we're facing in the environment right now, we just simply change that to -27. Then what we can do is we can save our configuration file, unpause and stop the experiment. Then when we press play again and load our experiment, we'll see that we're placed back where we left off in the previous trial. Okay, great. The next parameter we have is this rotate parameter. And this parameter can be useful if you want to place your participant within the environment, but you want them to have a full view of where they're being placed before they actually start the trial. The variable that you use is just the number of seconds it's going to take for the participant to rotate in a full 360 before the trial actually starts. So let's just change that to 6 seconds. We can then save. Go back to our Unity editor and launch our experiment again. And what you'll see is that before the trial starts, before the participant can move, they'll rotate for 6 seconds at 360 degrees, and then the trial time will begin. And of course, you can always make multiple 3D trials very easily just by copying and pasting. So for this trial, we'll just change it to scene 4. Make sure that you change trial 2 to trial 3. Again, the top line of every trial is just for the experimenter. This is just for you to know what trial it is, and you can provide some information about the trial. So maybe what we'll do is we'll go to trial 2, say this one will be in 3D environment 2, and our third trial will be 3D environment 1. And then we can go back up to the trial order in our block and add our third trial. Now when we run the experiment, we'll get the welcome screen, we place into our first scene, and then place into our second scene. And I'm going to go ahead and just shorten these trials to 10 seconds. Another thing to note is that you also have a trial end key. So at any point in the trial, you can press the X button, the trial will end, and continue on to the next trial. So let's go back in, launch our experiment. And again, you always want to make sure that the configuration file is saved before launching it in Unity. Okay, and we see that we're rotated for 6 seconds. Then the trial will last 10 seconds. Before we're placed into our 3D environment 1, rotated again. And this trial will end after 10 seconds as well. Okay, so I hope this tutorial has been useful. The next tutorial we're going to go over how to place goal objects and landmarks within your environments.